All right. Good afternoon to one and all. It's Friday, and as far as I'm concerned, summer is now officially here, at least for me. I will be off for the next 2 weeks, and will leave you in the able and capable hands of Mr. Huck. Starting off with a statement on the death of former President of Tanzania, Benjamin Mkapa. I can tell you that the Secretary General is deeply saddened to learn of the death of former President Mkapa. At this time of loss, he conveys his deepest condolences to the family of the former president, as well as to the government and people of the United Republic of Tanzania. Mr. Mkapa was a statesman, an experienced diplomat, and a respected regional peacemaker. And he was also an advocate of reconciliation. He was instrumental in facilitating the mediation of the East African community-led inter-Burundian dialogue under the leadership of Ugandan President Museveni, and was part of the African Union's panel of eminent African personalities that brokered an agreement following the disputed 2007-2008 general elections in Kenya. He was also a member of the panel of eminent persons appointed by the Secretary General to review and enhance the role of the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, otherwise known as UNCTAD. And I also have a senior personnel announcement to share with you. The Secretary General is appointing today Pamela Coke Hamilton of Jamaica as the Executive Director of the International Trade Center, a joint agency run by the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development and the World Trade Organization for Trade and International Business Development. She succeeds Arantxa González Laya of Spain, to whom the Secretary General has expressed his appreciation for her dedicated service to the organization. Currently, the Director of the Division of International Trade and Commodities at UNCTAD, Ms. Coke Hamilton, brings to her work, a new post rather, a breadth of experience and expertise in trade-related capacity building and sustainable development. She has served with the Jamaican government, the Caribbean Forum, and in trade negotiations and multilateral institutions, including the Organization of American States, the Inter-American Development Bank. Much more about her appointment and her biography can be found online. And you saw that yesterday we issued a number of statements after the briefing. The first on Ukraine, in which the Secretary General took note of the agreement reached during a recent meeting of the Trilateral Contact Group regarding an additional measures aimed at ensuring a comprehensive, sustainable, and unlimited ceasefire in eastern Ukraine. The Secretary General called on parties to fully abide by the agreed terms and focus on efforts of protection civilians who continue to suffer the most from the ongoing hostilities. And the Secretary General urges all concerned to take further measures in this spirit to ensure renewed momentum in the ongoing peace efforts by the Normandy 4, the Trilateral Contact Group, and the OSCE, including by easing humanitarian access and conditions along the contact line and enabling progress in the implementation of the Minsk Agreement in line with the Security Council Resolution 2202 of 2015. And in another statement we issued yesterday, the Secretary General strongly condemned the killing on July 22nd of 5 civilians, including 3 aid workers from the ACTED, the International Rescue Committee, and Action Against Hunger, by an armed group in northern Borno State, in Nigeria, of course. The Secretary General expressed his deepest condolences to the families of the victims and to the government and people of Nigeria. He reiterated that attacks by a party to an armed conflict that are directed against civilians, including those who are aid workers, violates international humanitarian law. International human rights law and international humanitarian law must be fully respected, including in the obligations to protect civilians. Staying in Nigeria, today the second country report of the Secretary General on children in armed conflict in Nigeria was released. The report highlights that boys and girls in northeast Nigeria continue to endure gruesome violations in the hands of Boko Haram. Boys and girls are also continued to be deeply impacted by military operations against the group by government forces, despite noteworthy efforts and commitments. The Special Representative of the Secretary General for Children in Armed Conflict, Virginia Gamba, warned that children of Nigeria and neighboring countries continue to endure horrendous violations by Boko Haram. She added that the expansion of the group's activities across the Lake Chad Basin region is a serious concern for the Secretary General. That report is, of course, available to you on the web. And this morning, our friend, Assistant Secretary General Miroslav Jenča from the Department of Peacebuilding and Political Affairs spoke to Security Council members on the topic of climate and security. He said that climate emergency is a danger to peace. As climate change threatens livelihood, it also increasing resources, competition, and displacing of communities. While there may not be an automatic link between climate change and conflict, it does aggravate existing risks. Mr. Jenča said the consequences vary from region to region. In the Pacific, rising sea levels pose a risk to social cohesion. In Central Asia, access to water and energy is contributing to regional tensions. In sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, and Latin America, climate change is expected to internally displace more than 140 million people by 2050. And in the Horn of Africa and the Middle East, it has deepened the risk of violent conflict. Mr. Jenča said we'll need to leverage new technologies to learn from those who are experiencing the impact of climate change firsthand, including women and youth in peacebuilding and environmental efforts. Staying on climate, the World Meteorological Organization today said that exceptional and prolonged heat in Siberia has fueled devastating Arctic fires. Temperatures in part of Siberia this week again topped 30 degrees centigrade, and WMO said that this extreme heat will almost have been impossible without the influence of human-caused climate change. The agency warned that the heat in the region will influence weather and climate conditions in lower latitudes, where hundreds of millions of people live. WMO added that the Siberian heat wave this past spring has also accelerated the ice retreat along the Arctic Russian coast. The melting of ice and thawing of permafrost leads to the release of methane, which will have a major impact on infrastructure and ecosystems throughout the region. For its part, the UN Refugee Agency today called on states to urgently release refugees who are being unlawfully and arbitrarily held in detention. States must act to ensure that vulnerable refugees are not heightened and are not at heightened and unnecessary risks amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. Gillian Triggs, the Assistant High Commissioner for Refugees for Protection, said that refugees fleeing war and persecution should not be punished or criminalized simply for exercising their fundamental right to seek asylum. She added that measures to tackle COVID do not justify arbitrarily detaining them on arrival, which not only worsens the misery of people who've already suffered, but also undermines efforts to limit the spread of the virus. And a few updates from the country level. At South Sudan, the UN mission there says that following renewed clashes in Jonglei yesterday, the number of families seeking safety at the UN base in Pibor has climbed to 8,000. On Wednesday and Thursday, armed groups attacked and seized the village of Likwangole, which is 30 kilometers north of Pibor town, forcing people to flee to an area next to the UN base. Conditions are dire there due to widespread flooding. People have also fled to other areas where there is no shelter, water, food, healthcare available. The UN mission says that all groups in the area have been involved in the violence, which has been escalating since December 2019. The mission calls on the groups to stop fighting and urges the creation of buffer zones to protect people and allow reconciliation to safely take place. And also on South Sudan, but this time update you on the mission's efforts to fight the pandemic. The UN mission there says has been vaccinating livestock and distributed hygiene kits in Wau State. The UN mission has also handed over 2 vehicles to state authorities in Unity region to help frontline workers move around easier and also transport patients to health facilities. And in neighboring Darfur in Sudan, the UN-AU joint mission there partnered with a group called the Central Darfur Disabled Union to commemorate Nelson Mandela International Day in Zalinge, in the capital of Darfur State. Soap, hand sanitizers, and other hygiene materials were handed out during the celebrations, which was held with the theme, Take Action, Inspire Change. Solar radio sets were also given to members of the group so they can access information on COVID, the Sudan peace process, and other socioeconomic issues. And in Burkina Faso, our humanitarian colleagues inform us that the country is facing one of the fastest growing displacement crises in the world this year. The number of internally displaced people rose by more than 57,000 people in June alone, reaching nearly 1 million, according to national authorities. This is an increase of more than 1,000% compared to 87,000 people in January of 2019. In the first quarter of 2020, we, along with our partners, have reached nearly 1 million people with humanitarian assistance. And we've also been supporting the COVID-19 government-led response and scaling up lab capacity, providing medical supplies and primary healthcare services, and installing hand washing facilities in public places, as well as displacement sites in other places. In addition, some 250,000 people were reached with food assistance and 10,000 households with livelihood assistance. The UN and humanitarian partners in Burkina Faso are seeking $424 million to address the humanitarian response needs of 2.2 million people. And lastly, in Djibouti, where there are more than 5,000 reported cases and more than 50 deaths due to the COVID-19, the UN team, being led by the resident coordinator, Barbara Mansi, is supporting authorities to address the socioeconomic impacts and planning the reopening of borders and of the back-to-school period. The UN Children's Fund, the UN Refugee Agency, are also providing thousands of cleaning supplies, protective and lab equipment, temporary shelter kits, and oxygen concentrators. A key focus is to protect health workers and refugees. The International Organization for Migration is also establishing screening areas and training government personnel on infection prevention and control measures at border crossing. For its part, the World Food Programme is providing food vouchers, and UNICEF is transferring cash to families as a temporary measure to prevent them from falling into poverty. All right, that's it. Let's see what the question situation is. Bear with me 2 seconds. Chat. Surprisingly enough, James Bays seems to have some questions. So James, please go ahead.
Sorry, I've got quite a few questions because I wasn't able to attend your briefing yesterday. I had another engagement. So you might want to do me in 2 sections, but let me have a couple first then. First, the tit for tat closing of consulates. China has now closed the US consulate in Chengdu. How worried is the Secretary General about this ongoing tension between 2 major powers, P5 members?
I think this question was raised a couple of days ago. Obviously, that particular issue of consulates is a bilateral issue between the United States and the People's Republic of China. Secretary General's concern has been expressed in the recent past and over the last year of the growing tensions between the major powers on the Security Council, this case between China and the United States. And the impact it could have on the work of the Security Council, which needs unity in order to move forward.
I have other questions. Maybe you come back to me later, but one related question. Clearly, there have been some very strong comments from the US Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, on China. Does the Secretary General find those comments helpful? And in particular, what is the Secretary General's view on the claim in reported comments by Mr. Pompeo that the head of the WHO, Dr. Tedros, has been bought by China?
Look, I'm not going to comment on what was reported that Mr. Pompeo may have said about the WHO. I'm not going to comment on his speech. I think the Secretary General's position of supporting WHO, supporting Dr. Tedros is well known, has been expressed before, and will continue to be expressed. Okay, I'll come back to you, James. Evelyn, please.
Hello, Steph. On Nigeria, what exactly is Boko Haram doing in its terrible actions? Do you have details on that?
They're killing people, killing civilians, and targeting humanitarian workers, and they've sadly been at it for quite some time. Gloria.
Wait, I'm not finished.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Evelyn.
Yeah. USAID is Secretary of State Pompeo is putting religious freedom, alleged freedom of religion in USAID's that usually means cutting, that usually means discrimination against women. Is the UN at all involved in what's happening there?
No, it's the staffing of national institutions is not something we get involved in.
No, but you run into them overseas.
I don't know what else to say.
Right. Refugees.
Yes.
Is there anything specific? Because the refugees are being treated badly in many places in the world. Is there anything specific they're going after?
Who is going after?
Well, you said that there was a whole UNHCR and other.
No, I mean, I think UNHCR is reaffirming a basic principle. We've seen reports. You're asking me where they're being mistreated. Refugees are sadly being mistreated, and their rights are being trampled in too many places. And COVID is often being used as a pretext against refugees, and frankly, sometimes, as we've seen, against human rights.
True. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Gloria.
Yeah, Steph, Nigeria is one of the greatest military countries and wealthy. It seems insane to me that they can't eradicate, because they're helped by the United States State Department, everybody, to eradicate the Boko Haram. It's a military problem. Now it's coming into the Chad Basin, which has been relatively safe. They've been accepting refugees, but they haven't been under attack. It's a terrible threat right now. My question is, in your opinion, or anybody's opinion, not the Secretary General, what could be done, if anything?
Well, I mean, the fight against terrorism is not only a military issue. It's not only a security issue. One needs to address the underlying causes, socioeconomic causes, state infrastructure, state presence causes. There are a lot of issues that need to be addressed at the same time. Iftikhar.
Thank you, Steph. I wonder if you have any comments on the incident that took place over Syrian airspace, where a U.S. military aircraft came too close to Mahan Airlines, an Iranian civil aircraft, and created panic inside the plane. Do you have any comments on this?
We have no specific information on that incident. I checked with my colleagues in Montreal at ICAO. They have nothing. They have not received anything as of yet. As a matter of principle, the safety and of civilian air travel should be respected by all. But again, that's just a principal position. I don't have any at this point. We don't have any specific information on this incident. All right, I think I may be ready for. Okay, let's go to Lenka, then Abdelhamid, and then we'll go to round 2 with Al Jazeera.
Okay, thank you. I was wondering, please, given the current relations, is the Secretary General doing anything to support the P5 summit, or what is he doing exactly? Thank you.
Obviously, I think a P5 summit would hopefully help to find greater unity within the Security Council. But I think the P5 are talking amongst themselves. If there's anything that we need to be involved in, and whether in supporting it, logistically in whatever way, we will do that. But it is a discussion that is going on amongst those P5 who I think can handle it on their own. Abdelhamid Siam.
Thank you, Stéphane. In fact, Iftikhar took my question, but I have another one on Libya. The AFRICOM, which is the U.S. military command in Africa, confirmed today the arrival of fighting jets into Libya, ammunition, and some more military equipment. Can you confirm that? And what is the update in the situation in the UN mediation or UN efforts to calm things down in Libya?
No, I have, we have no indication of I mean, we don't have access to the same information that the U.S. military or other militaries, frankly have. Our update is that Ms. Williams is continuing her contacts with various parties to try to bring a halt to the fighting, to halt to the current conflict, and we have seen repeatedly violations of the arms embargo, which needs to stop. Our humanitarian colleagues in Libya are very much focused on doing what they can. They're delivering food, delivering humanitarian aid, including in Tripoli, where they're ongoing. I know our colleagues at UNHCR are doing some emergency food deliveries. So we're continuing to push this rock up a hill in the hopes that peace will return to Libya.
As a follow-up, Stéphane, the Libyan permanent representative, Mr. Tahir al-Sunni, confirmed that the Security Council will meet next week to discuss the issue of violation of weapons and other equipment coming into Libya. And he said he will be inviting all those countries who are in violation of the embargo. Can you confirm that, please?
No, and you'd have to ask our German friends to see what's on the calendar next few days.
I did ask them, and I didn't receive an answer so far.
There are so little things that I control, and anything having to do with the Security Council, I control even less. Mr. Bays, are you ready for a second round?
I am. I believe that is a committee meeting of the Security Council, Sanctions Committee.
It's group solutions. Thank you.
Exactly. A follow up though on Libya, because you say you don't have the capability to confirm what's going on the ground in Libya. Where is Stephanie Williams right now? Is she in Tripoli? Is she outside Tripoli? And give us I know you're not checking visas every day, but give us a rough idea of the footprint of UNSMIL. How many people does it currently have on the ground in Libya?
Just to clarify what I said to Abdelhamid, we don't have access to the same kind of information that the military have. Obviously, we do report back to the Security Council about what is going on and what we're able to observe as we do so on a regular basis. Miss Williams, I know was in the area. She was in Algiers and Tunis earlier this week. I'll have to check where she physically is, and I'll try to get you a.
Where's she physically based these days? Is she actually based like Salame was in Tripoli now?
She's been in Tripoli. She's been traveling. No, she's been traveling. So as I said, she was in Algeria not too long ago, and she has been spending quite some time in Tripoli as well, as I believe. But I'll try to get you some more granular logistical information on all of it.
It would be useful to know, because this has been a long-running thing that UNSMIL has been mainly operating remotely from Tunis, and I know it was an aim of Mr. Salame to move the whole thing to Tripoli, and we've never really been given a proper picture of how much got moved and how much is still there, particularly as one assumes with General Haftar's presence around Tripoli reduced, the security threat in Tripoli in the last couple of months is greatly reduced. So one assumes there's no good reason why there are UN officials working on Libya in Tunis.
Let's get some facts before we move to assumptions, but we'll try to do that today.
Okay. So a couple of other questions. You mentioned quite a lot on climate. The Security Council has been talking about climate. One specific proposal from the German Foreign Minister is that you appoint, the Secretary General appoints a special envoy for climate security. Is that something that he will consider?
I think every suggestion from a member state, a member of the Security Council, is to be considered. And the issue of the link between climate and security is one that the Secretary General has been talking about for quite some time.
And I'm not having a go at Stephanie Williams today, but this relates to her and to other SRSGs, and it's a question I've asked before. who deal with important, newsworthy conflict zones that report to the Security Council. I do not think that we've had a single stakeout during the COVID times from any of these people. If they had been coming to New York, which they obviously do as part of their reporting cycle, they normally give a stakeout. They're using this, or seem to be, an opportunity not to speak to us. So I have not seen any media engagement from Mr. Pedersen, from Stephanie Williams, or from Martin Griffiths at any time in the last 4 months. The notable exception is Mr. Shearer on South Sudan, who came and gave a news conference. But it seems that they are not speaking to us at the time of COVID. I know they're very busy. I'm sure in their minds that their job doing diplomacy would be much better if they didn't speak to us. But actually, they're international public servants, and we are the conduit to the public. Are we going to get more stakeouts from these people? And I'll give you 2 examples. Mali next week, Emergency Security Council meeting on Monday, closed consultations, a stakeout would be useful. Tuesday, the Security Council meeting on Yemen, Mr. Griffiths, we have not heard from him for a very long time. A stakeout would be useful.
Understood. Thank you. We will pass that along. All right. On that note, I will leave you. I will see you in a couple of weeks.
I have a question.
Sorry? Yes, go ahead. Who's that?
It's Sherwin. Hi. I was just wondering if you could reread the statement on the Tanzanian president, please. You messed up his last name, and I need to use that statement, and don't want to make you look bad in Africa.
I would hate for that to. I would hate for that to.
It's Mkapa. It's Mkapa.
No, thank you.
Thanks, Steph. Thank you.
All right. I can tell you that the Secretary General is. Excuse me. I can tell you the Secretary General is deeply saddened to learn of the death of former President Mkapa. At this time of loss, the Secretary General conveys his deepest condolences to the family of the former president, as well as to the government and people of Tanzania. Former President Mkapa was a statesman, an experienced diplomat, and a respected regional peacemaker, as well as an advocate for reconciliation. He was instrumental in facilitating the mediation for the East African community-led Burundian dialogue under the leadership of the President of Uganda, Mr. Museveni, who was also part of the African Union's panel of eminent African personalities that brokered an agreement following the disputed 2007-2008 general elections in Kenya. He was also a member of the panel of eminent persons appointed by the Secretary General to review and enhance the role of UNCTAD. All right. Did we do okay, Sherwin?
You did, sir. Have a great vacation. Nice to see you off that way.
Thank you.
Lovely holiday.
James, keep us busy in your absence.
I think we may have maybe I'll have James do the briefing.
It sounds like he has all the answers.
Yes, and I think there's a whole list of complaints to read out. So we'll do a job swap.
Enjoy your holiday.
All right. Take care. Bye.